created by Cable for Canadians.
Hi, welcome to Beyond Politics. I'm Catherine Clark. Ontario Conservative MP Bev Shipley's family has farmed in Ontario for almost 2 centuries. He himself was a farmer, and he married Barb, who was the daughter of a provincial agriculture minister. He was always deeply committed to his community, and after a harrowing snowmobile accident, he decided to become active politically as well, first as a councillor and a mayor, now as a federal MP. He joins me to talk all about life beyond politics. Bev Shipley, welcome to Beyond Politics. It's great to have you here.
Catherine, it's great to be with you. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Well, you grew up on a farm. You're a farmer.
Yes.
You are an extremely dapper-looking farmer.
I love farming. I love farming,
yeah.
and
but you don't wear these clothes to farm.
No,
not every day.
The tie comes off and all that sort of stuff comes off.
Yeah.
But thank you for the compliment. But no, I love farming.
Yeah.
I grew up, and it was a choice that I took when I was younger, much younger.
Right.
And I love it. I loved it.
What was it like growing up on a farm?
I don't know what it was like. Would it be like growing up in the city? But the farming has a beat.
Right.
Okay. I just think in the rural communities, it's so much about family. It's so much about, not that urbans aren't, but it's so much about family and your neighbors.
And relying on other people.
Absolutely. You know, you'll have circumstances that come up, and if there's sort of one of those medical ones, or if there's something that has happened to a neighbor, the neighbors just show up. Just do it.
Yeah.
And had a young guy that used to do some of the custom work for me. He had a heart attack. And, you know, one morning there was 12 of us showed up at his farm and plowed his whole 100 acres in the morning. But it's just things you do.
Right.
Finish his crop at harvest. And that's, I think there's a great thought process and a community process that comes with the rural part. And, it was tough growing up. You walked uphill to school, both going and coming. I mean, you were going out in the country.
Barefoot?
Yeah, barefoot, yeah.
It was always snowing.
Well, actually, one of the downsides I had, I guess it was a downside, the school was about 300 feet from my home.
Oh,
and
really?
my father was a trustee.
You could never play hooky.
Yeah, it was a little more difficult. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Did your parents found the farm? I mean, are they the ones who got the land and started farming, or was it passed down through the generations?
You know, actually, it's interesting. I have the original deed in parchment to our home farm. So our family came over from Northumberland, England in 1819, settled where we are in 1839. And so it goes, we have a lot of heritage back into that part of our country. And so, and most of them farmed. Some of them were also involved, were some tradespeople. I got this huge chest downstairs that came over on the boat, even though they got robbed and some things not so good happened when they landed in Kingston. But it has all the tools for woodworking.
Did you have chores as a kid?
Oh,
farm chores?
Absolutely. That wasn't an option.
What
that
were
was
they?
Sort of that's just, I guess you just sort of grow up and same with our kids. They just came out to the barn with us. They were just hung around with you. They would be a part, and so when they were doing it, they would pick up a shovel. They would pick up the broom. They would help feed. As they grew, they took on, and instead of just being fun, then they would start to do more of the responsibilities and chores, and so that's it's something you grow into, and I think that's why at an early age I'd made the decision that a choice of mine that I wanted to farm.
You did, eh? Yeah. Why?
Oh, I loved. We had cattle, so I grew up and we developed into a purebred herd of Holsteins. And so we used to export a little bit also around the country and around the world, actually. And then, we started to buy some land. I loved cropping. There's something about planting and seeing it grow. There's something about livestock and having young baby calves born and watching them flourish and grow and become productive in their life. And so that's the thing about agriculture and farming. It's just, it was something I wanted to do because I love life.
When you were growing up, did your mom and dad tell you that they expected that you were going to get a university degree, or your mom wanted you to become a lawyer, or your dad wanted you to take over the farm? I mean, did you have these expectations put on you as a kid, or were your parents?
No, there were never those expectations, other than it was like a little bit of a disappointment when I finished high school. I wanted to go to college at that stage of the game, for me to leave and for the farm to continue on with my parents wasn't a very good option. And so when I graduated from high school, I was actually home for about a year and a half.
Right.
And then Centralia College, Agriculture College, was opening up. And so I think I was the first person through the door that met with the then principal, whom I had the utmost respect for. And he was sitting at a temporary table, and we pulled up a chair, and I think I was the first one on the enrollment list into the Agriculture College. And that could happen because it was a 20-minute drive from home.
Right.
So I was able to do chores in the morning, and I would leave at 8 o'clock, and then I would get home and be able to do chores at night. And on a good day, we would go back up at night to see what was happening. But at that time, it was education. I knew I needed more. I knew just in agriculture, even though that was a long time ago. It focused on business management.
Right.
The part that I wanted, I had a pretty good handle on crops, I had a pretty good handle on livestock and that. So, but I enjoyed it so much. I did well, quite honestly, in ag college. But it was the business management part, and I had a great prof at that time that was very good for me, and in terms of honing my management skills, I guess. And
did it help you to, in fact, grow your farm?
Oh, absolutely. It's I think educational institutions don't always give you the answer, but what they do is give you the opportunity to know where to go to get the answers, and that's what I got the most from it. And it's a skill, it's a quality, it's a necessity of education that you need if you're going to be successful in the farming industry. For the most part right now, it's about having an education. It's about being able to understand technology, understanding the research and development that comes that's going to sustain this great industry, quite honestly, that we have into the future.
You talked about doing chores in the morning, doing chores at night. I don't mean to keep coming back to chores, but the point of the question is, in the middle you're doing other things too. So your days were exceptionally long. As a young person, did that not turn you off the idea of farming at all, ever?
No.
This idea that...
I guess I always kind of had a lot of energy.
Okay.
You know, because actually I played in a band.
Did you?
Yeah, played saxophone, played in a band. We would practice a couple of nights a week, play 2 nights on the weekend.
Like actual gig kind of?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It was great. We did that for a long while actually.
Right.
And so at some point in time, I even brought one down to Ottawa. I thought, well, because I should pick it up. No.
Oh.
So I thought, well, I'll have one at home, a saxophone. I have one in Ottawa. Maybe someday I'll just pick them up when we get back into it, because I think it's like a bit like riding the bike.
Right.
But I haven't got the bike out yet. So, but I do. I love music. Okay. And it was a great experience. That was also part of where my income came from.
Sure.
That's where I was able to have some things, help buy a car when I needed it, and help do some things. And plus that, it was just a lot of fun.
Was it also a good way to meet women? Is that how you met your wife?
Actually, I met my wife at high school.
Oh, did you really?
Yes.
Great.
Met her in high school.
Okay.
And we met there. And
were you in the same grade?
No, I'm 2 years older.
Oh, robbing the cradle.
Well, almost 3.
That's wonderful, though.
Yeah. So we met in high school. So I'm 3 years older. She was 15 or 16.
Yeah.
And
amazing.
18, yeah.
That's great.
So I still played in the band. Actually, the first date I took her out on was when we were playing. Yeah.
So she came to one of your...
She did. It was on Halloween night.
Oh.
Yeah. And sort of interesting. Things happen, and because this is sort of that first date, the time changes. I don't remember, whenever the time changes.
Yes.
Yeah, so she's supposed to be home at a certain time. Of course, the time changed.
Oh, no.
That was pretty much the exclamation. Yeah, I think her parents would say, "Who's this guy she's with?" You know.
But they didn't give you any, they didn't cut you any slack for the fact that the time had changed?
Yeah, actually, I didn't stay around that night to ask them.
Because he had a shotgun when you got home.
Anyway, it all worked out well, and we've been now married for 39 years.
That's incredible.
Just
congratulations.
Thanksgiving weekend.
Oh, it's
Thank you very much.
That's a real wonderful achievement.
It is.
And I'm sure it's taken a lot of work on both parts.
Yeah, well, I think that's what it's about, I'd say every day's a great day. Some are better than others, but every day's a great day. And without Barb, she's my great supporter and a mentor. She's great we've got 3 children and 7 grandchildren, and the 8th one on the way.
Oh, wow.
And she's just so great with our family and for support for me. So she comes down to Ottawa on occasion, and actually more than an occasion. And that's I really appreciate that.
You know what must be nice about that too is that it's just the two of you.
Yeah.
And I bet you wouldn't have an awful lot of time when it is just the two of you. And in Ottawa, you have the luck of it being. Sure, it's where you work in their long days, but you don't have a lot of people who are stopping you as you try to, go through home hardware or whatever
that's right.
it may be. It's just the two of you together, and that must be nice.
Yeah. When you get home, I just find here. So she's actually very good. She waits up, and if there's an event that, quite honestly, that she can be a part of, I want to include her in it.
Great.
And so she's very good politically also, and is very good. She's back in my riding, helps me if I can't be at a function. She says, "I only do the warm and fuzzy stuff. Don't talk to me about policy and any of that."
Sure.
She's very, very good at that. So I'm very fortunate.
She has a pedigree. Does she not? A political pedigree?
You tell her that. Yeah.
Maybe that's the wrong term to use for a farming family too. Yeah. But her dad was a provincial cabinet minister.
He was. Yeah, he was Minister of Agriculture for most of his tenure in the provincial government, and not just me saying it, but the best agriculture minister that Ontario has actually ever seen for many, many years. So he went through some, that was at a time when I was dating Barb, and there were some very, very trying times as a Minister of Agriculture as he attempted to bring in supply management to the commodities of dairy and the poultry industry, and it was but he was an incredible man, and I think back now of the things that he did. He actually wrote a book, Rural Roots and Beyond, and it's about sort of his story. But again, his wife, Barb's mom, was there beside him all the time, and she was the one. His office was in his home, and that's how it was back then.
Yeah. Where's your office? You have a constituency office.
We do. I have 2 of them.
Okay.
Well, Barb thinks the third one's in our house, but I have one at each end of the riding. My riding is, for Ontario, unless you're up north, is fairly large, and so it's very, very rural.
Right.
And so my town's the largest one is Strathroy, and I have an office there, which is a population of 13 or 14,000. And the next one is at the other end at Walsburg, that has maybe a 12,000 population. So that's where it is. And in between, we have about 50 towns and villages. But the majority of it is agriculture, and it's an incredible. It's an incredible, great agriculture area with the diversity of the riding. I think of the riding because it's sort of this. Not square, it's sort of all over the place. I think when everybody got what they wanted, this was sort of the one that was left. But now I wouldn't trade it. The diversity up at my southwest end is even in the industry. It's very, very tough and struggling at the one end where they've lost, the 12,000, over the years have lost 6,000 jobs. The agriculture up at that end is very much more, you'll have greenhouses and peppers and sugar beets and tomatoes and corn but no livestock. And then as you start to move towards the north and the east, you will get a little bit of livestock. Some of the specialty crops are a little different. And then when you get down to where I am, it's full gamut of livestock, and mainly corn, wheat, and soybeans with specialty crops of edible beans and so on. So it's an incredibly great riding and the diversity of it.
Must also help that you are a farmer yourself, because that would be an immediate, there would be an immediate level of trust right there with many of your constituents because of it.
Well, you hope so. I think we sometimes do ourselves disservice in terms of trust of what's out there, and you have to build that. I can tell you that it doesn't come because you're Bev Shipley and you've been there, because now you're involved in the federal government, you're involved with a political party that, there's this thing out there that we just don't trust politicians. It's very unfortunate, I think. But we have to work hard to build our credibility so that if I tell you something, actually it's actually what I'm trying to do, or actually it's what we're doing, or it's the truth, and I don't want to have to back away from that. And if I do, I'll have to have a reason for it, and sometimes reasons come up, and sometimes things will happen that are beyond your control. You make projections and goals like any business, we'll make projections, we'll make goals, and they're all great. That's why we do them on a regular basis. But sometimes an emergency or a crisis or something comes in between that, and so that's where you've got to be able to, now how do I deal with it, and how am I going to manage that situation that comes along?
Right. Taking a step back to the beginning of the political involvement, why did you decide to get involved politically first? And that was, originally it was as a municipal councillor.
Yes.
And as a mayor. Why get involved at all?
Well, it's a good question, because actually I got involved politically a little before that. Someone showed up at my door and said, well, how would you like to go on a committee of the council? I said, I guess I don't know. I was farming all the time, and that's what I did. And so, we have a space to be a fence viewer. Do you know what a fence viewer is? No. Actually, it's when two property owners don't see eye to eye and there's a dispute over a line fence, and then you're there to basically mediate that. Okay. I thought, wow, this is a great way to start. Anyway, we did. And again, it's about how do you deal? I mean, it's about how do we negotiate something here.
Right.
And then I had, because I was farming, I had an interest in how do you plan agriculture with residential growth and industrial growth around you. And I had an interest in that, and I guess I must have voiced a point of view or something. And anyway,
every time you speak up, someone has a job for you. Hey, we need a mayor.
So I asked if I would go on the planning board, if I'd be interested. And so I said, sure. And you do these because it's about your community.
Okay.
That's when we talked about earlier. You're asking about my parents and what about growing in the country, and that was like we never thought about whether you got paid or not, which we didn't. But it was just about what you did. Because I had an interest in a position, and other ones on it had diversity, and so I got involved with the planning of our municipality, and then one day I was getting we were getting ready for harvest, and I was in the workshop in the drive shed, and a neighbor of mine who was a councillor came driving in, and he said he wasn't going to be running in the next election, which was coming up that fall. He said, would you be interested? I'd like you to run in my spot. There'll be other ones, but do you want to run? So thought about it, and I said, well, that's sort of interesting. I love the planning, and this takes on a whole new gamut of it, which includes it, but so I did.
How did your wife feel about it?
She was a lot better now than she was then. No, I think just she'd grown up in such a political life, because, at the time of her involvement with politics, she was very young. And so I think she just saw Dad was away. Dad was away a lot, and struggling to get the time, and all those things that come with a politician. That's why I just think it's so incredible for our young people that get involved, because they make an incredible sacrifice.
Absolutely.
And for those that will sometimes say, well, you know, we're spending a lot of money because they want to bring their wife down with them and their family. I'm telling you, we should never, ever take away the opportunity for our families to join us when we're away. Because part of the trouble is when we go home on the weekend, it's not that, well, we can go home on the weekend with your family. You want to be, but you've got your commitments with your constituency and your riding and people. So she has, through that process, one thing too, I was farming. Which is different than you know, you get up at 7:30 and you go to work and you don't come home till 5. Or you know, I got up early. I get up at 5:30 or so, but I'd be back in before the kids would leave. I'd come in for breakfast and I'd be there when the kids left, and then I'd be around through the day. And and I could be around if the children came home. And Barb at that time made a decision that she would stay home when we started to raise a family, and then as we went on, she would do a little bit of part-time teaching and that sort of stuff. So it was good, very good.
Do your kids go around with you to do any of your MP work, or your grandkids even?
Well, sometimes I get them to come in a parade. I've had the kids do, when I first got in, do a little campaigning.
Yes, very effective.
Very effective with me, but now they aren't quite so handy.
Okay.
So I have...
you got to get the grandkids out there. It's really tough.
Oh, yeah.
Say no to a little kid asking to vote for Grandpa, please.
That's right. Yeah, and we have... my oldest one is 12 years old. Oldest granddaughter.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, so,
that's really something. I hear that you bear a scar from a snowmobiling accident. Is that true? I do. What happened?
Well, it was a life changer, I'll tell you. It was one evening, and we snowmobiled a lot. And so there's an evening, and we were doing a dinner at a friend's place, and actually we were just going from point A to B because we were going over to pick up the one person, his wife was working. She'd just get home, and we would go over and pick her up, and then we would go and finish our dinner event for the evening. And so we were coming across down the road, and somebody said, well, we'll cut across. And I said, well, I know the farm. I'll just take it across. And I did. I mean, it was a neighbor's farm. But what I didn't know is that in the fall, late in the fall, he also had livestock, and he had heifers in the barn, and he had put out a fence out around for the heifers to run out on some pasture land, on some hay ground. I didn't know that fence had gone up. And we'd had a fair bit of snow. And we were scooting along because I thought it was fairly all wide open. We were moving along pretty well, and all of a sudden I saw this post, and I turned. But when I turned, I picked up the wire under the snow. Yeah. And so it came up. I guess I must have turned and my face a bit, and it came up over the front and caught me here, and then just sort of peeled everything away. So I was very fortunate to be alive. I had 300 stitches or so in the face, and
how horrifying!
It was amazing. And I never lost consciousness. It took me off the back, and so when I went off, I jumped up. There was a bunch behind me. You see, and I jumped up in front of the guy, one of them behind me, and waved my arms, and he stopped and pretty much scared him because he didn't like what he saw. I couldn't see. All I knew is that I didn't have much face left.
So how did they get you to a hospital? Well,
one of my friends, he did a U. He grabbed me on behind, and the one fellow said, my wife's just going, she worked at UH Hospital in London. He said, if we get back, we'll catch my wife. She'll just be leaving for work. And so he grabbed and wrapped his arm around me, and I held on, and we caught his wife coming out the laneway, and we jumped in the back of the car. By this time, it wasn't bleeding as bad, I don't know, because it was really cold. But once I hit the car, I think I did a lot of damage to the inside of his car. Got towels and all that sort of stuff.
Anyway. How long did it take you to recover from that?
Well, you know, I went in that night. They wouldn't let me see myself. I guess that's likely the right thing to do. And they kept waking me up in the middle of the night to say, "You need to take a pain pill." And I said, "Well, actually, I don't have any pain. I don't need a pill." As best I could talk, but I knew this thing was getting bigger and bigger. And they couldn't find they were waiting for morning to find a proper surgeon. And so we went in. I think it was about a 4-hour operation in the morning. And he said, he came out. He said, "I don't know who's looking after you," but he said it was like a puzzle, but all the pieces were there. Now you remember he had a barbed wire fence. I don't know if you know about a barbed wire fence. Yes. It's a strand with these little sharp things sticking up. And at that time, it was a life-changing experience for me. It put my priorities in a little different place. This all happened just before so that was in January of 1985, and it was in the fall of 85 that I ran for council.
When you say it put your priorities in perspective, what do you mean?
Well, first of all, it brought to me that, I likely shouldn't be here, because it was not long after that actually, not a person that I knew, but it had happened in an accident where actually he was decapitated because he hit a wire. And so that strikes home pretty much. It was one, I don't know why. When you get caught here, yeah. And we were, but at any rate, it changed my I think in some of my priorities. I have a great faith because I just somebody's looking out for me. I guess he's not done with me yet.
Hopefully not. What a story.
It is. So, but they told me, they told my wife, when she came in and our pastor was in, and she came in and says, "Well, after the operation, and we have them all stitched up. All this is like a puzzle," I said, "but you have to come back in. We'll have to do reconstructive surgery. He'd severed the muscles, and so you're going to have to find this drooping that we likely aren't going to see. You better prepare yourself at the side of the face, and that will droop." And so, at any rate, I think I'm a healthy person, and my body healed well. And so my sister, that was sort of the pain, growing up, is also a nurse.
Okay.
And she was very well. She's and what I did, she got the most purest vitamin E, and we would open it, and she said, "Of all the stuff that you're doing, make sure you just keep rubbing and rubbing." And so we did, and it was just unbelievable.
Because you'd never know.
Yeah. Well, I'm very, very fortunate. I never went back in, by the way. So I never went back in for any surgery or reconstruction. So no. So
Did you go snowmobiling again?
I lost some of my desire. I kept it, and sometimes when the grandkids are around or my children were home, they would get on and run around the property or the lawn, and then I sold it. It was getting old. But now, I still have some of the friends that snowmobiled then have got them, and they go out, and that's great. The trails are all groomed now. Sure. It is, and I often think, boy, that'd be kind of neat just to take a weekend, go up north, do the trails, do that.
But it's hard to put that underlying fear, that concern.
I drive by my neighbor's place, the farm, and for a long while. Yeah. For a long while, I get goosebumps when I drove by it. It takes a while to cleanse the system of that sort of thought process, and a lot of things go through your mind when those things happen to you. But I've been blessed.
Well, it's been a real treat to speak with you, and fascinating to learn about your life too.
Yeah. And you must have been talking to Martin, were you, about that?
Yes, my colleague. Yes. Okay, my sources are revealed.
Yeah.
I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you very much, and likewise. It's been great.